Hey, if you're looking for a firearm for home defense or something for shooting sports or hunting, you can't do better than a rifle or a shotgun from our friends at Henry Repeating Arms. Now, they have more than 200 models that you can choose from in a wide variety of calibers and finishes, all made in America and the finest craftsmanship I've ever seen. Henry's are reliable, they're affordable, and they're backed with their lifetime satisfaction guarantee. Just visit henryusa.com. You get to order their free catalog with free decals, and you're going to love this company.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or, whether those aliens are here or not, who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about it? They go to people they respect.
Staff is being hired to do the job. We're there to seek the truth. We're there to get the truth, not to get drunk. TRU, truth.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
All right, thanks, Scott Shannon, and thanks to all of you for being with us. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of this extravaganza. By the way, I talked to our friend Wayne Dupree, and he sent out a nice tweet saying, you know what, somebody on my staff put that article up. I didn't see it, and he rightly corrected it. It's amazing that no matter how many times I might say something, for as long a period of time as I've been saying it, that when the mob, the media, want to advance a narrative for whatever their agenda is, they just go with whatever it is, even when it's just flagrantly not true. And I had to correct the record. We have been telling people for the longest time to take it seriously. And there were some conservatives that got mad at me when I said, just wear the mask, we'll get rid of this thing and then we can move on with our regular lives. And I wanted to get back into restaurants and back in stadiums and arenas and sports and concerts and everything else. And so it didn't really bother me. And then I saw a little bit of an upside as a public figure. I'm like, oh, nobody notices me. And then I got noticed even with the mask on. So that doesn't really matter. But more importantly, I want everybody to be healthy. It's like a lot of the things we take for granted in life. And it really hit me when I was down in Miami this week. We do take for granted every single day the blessing, and it's a blessing. Blessing in the Latin means carefree. It is a blessing to live in a country with liberty and freedom. Now, I'm worried that we are getting further and further away from the constitutional protections for liberty and freedom. I'm very worried about the fact that we don't have equal justice and application of our laws. That's deeply concerning to me. And these are things that we try to talk about on a regular basis so that we know. And, the funny thing is all of the doctors that we had put on the program all throughout the pandemic at varying times, and there's been so many of them, and many that I agree with, and a couple that maybe I had some disagreement with, and some that have been able to even convince me. And it just comes down to me, the great irony is the mantra of the left is follow the science, follow the science, follow the science, but yet they're the ones that don't seem to be following the science. I mean, Rand Paul was getting the crap kicked out of him because he had COVID. He understood the antibody levels would naturally decline within his body. And then we learned a lot about what are T-cell antibodies. I know more about this stupid virus than any of us ever wanted to know. And that if you contracted or came in contact with COVID, your body would instantaneously recognize it from your past contracting of the virus, and that they would then be activated. These are layman terms. I'm not giving you medical terminology. Just trying to explain it the best way that I can. And it just is, so my advice, which has been so consistent, and we've done montages now on radio and on television of the message that has been clear and has been consistent as can be, and how the media just falsely categorizes what I say for, whatever agenda narrative that they want to push. I am very pro-life. I believe life is a precious gift from God, and that life is precious, and that I don't want anybody to suffer, to be sick, unhealthy. I urge people. Linda, how many people, for example, do you know of that I have personally, out of my own pocket, put them on the NJ diet? We could bring.
Oh yeah, I mean, you did that. Sweet Baby did it.
I probably have put at least about
30, 5 people over at Dell's.
Yeah, I mean tons. And anybody that's been struggling with weight, I know it worked for me. It works. And I just said, listen, I forced my sister Teddy, who's a nurse, Sweet Baby James's wife. We're going to send somebody over to NJ, and I'd take care of the payment. They'd go. If they did the plan, many of them were very successful because I care about people's health. And that's the one thing that we now know with every disease, from heart disease to, strokes and type 2 diabetes, all this crap. A lot of it can be avoided based on, keeping your weight down. As a society, we tend to be a little heavier than we should be based on what the, quote, doctors and charts tell us and what's your BMI and all that sort of thing. But anyway, so I just, because I care about people, I don't want anyone to get sick. So we put on the best people, and I would always ask these doctors the same question. That's why Dr. Nicole Sapphire was cracking up this week when I said, how many times do you think I've asked the question of you when I tell people that they need to take this seriously, that I don't want them to get sick? I've seen the worst of this. I've seen people barely make it. The odds if you got on a ventilator are very low. Even they're still low, by the way. They're not high. You get on a ventilator, on the high side, you're looking at 40-ish% that you survive. But it was as low as 12 when this thing first came upon us. They've been able to, implement therapeutics, et cetera. The great medical researchers and scientists and doctors, they've gotten better and better at handling this. Many doctors, not enough in my opinion, have moved towards proactive medicine rather than reactive medicine. Reactive medicine is more like, oh, you got COVID, you tested positive, okay, go home, isolate yourself, do contact tracing. If you get a fever, take take a couple of Tylenol and it should go down. You might want to take zinc or maybe vitamin D3 and vitamin C, and that's about it. But then the studies came out, hydroxychloroquine, Donald Trump was right. Taken early, 84% effective. Numerous studies now that show it helps, doesn't cure it, it helps mitigate some of the symptoms. Ivermectin is another one. I think the greatest, most underutilized therapeutic out there is Regeneron. Only because anecdotally, the people that I know that got it, received it, it's an infusion. That's the monoclonal cocktails that they put together. Have been really, really effective and I think underutilized. And unfortunately, they say, well, if your oxygen level, everyone gets their own little oxygen meter. Yeah, if it goes to 90 or below, yeah, then come in and see us. I'm like, okay, by that time, the damage has been done. What is the name of the storm that I always forget the name of this. You can say it on air. Go ahead.
Cytokine.
The cytokine, what they call is the cytokine storm, where you get an overreaction of your immune system, and that then creates major health problems for people. So not being a doctor, not knowing about anybody's medical history, not knowing about your current medical condition, I just have to, I don't feel qualified to give that type of medical advice like everybody else. So everyone seems very casual about it, and they were demanding that I tell people what to do, and I just refused. What I do tell people, because I believe in life, I want you to live. I don't want anybody sick. Who would ever want that? My prayers are with the Democrats in Texas that they all recover and get well. Just because we have political differences, I haven't lost my soul in humanity here. And anyway, so the best advice, and all these doctors affirmed that I was doing the right thing, which is take it seriously. I've seen the worst of this, and the worst of this, Linda, the cases, the many, 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 many cases I've gotten involved in, and how bad some were.
It's awful. It's absolutely horrible.
And how many doctors I have leaned on to please help these people.
But the problem is the government is leaning on them from the other way, stopping them from what they need to do.
Well, listen, there's been a lot of misinformation, especially from the government, the great Dr. Flip-Flop Fauci. But putting all that aside, and so if you do take it seriously and then do your own research, there's this amazing thing. It's called the internet. Al Gore created it, I'm told. And if you have a phone, you can find all the information, all the studies that are available on all of these therapeutics and all of these different strategies that are employed, all these clinical trials that have taken place. Read even opinions that you don't agree with. Make this audience is smart. I have a lot of faith in people. If you're listening to talk radio, you got a brain. You're thinking, and studies even prove it out, which is funny. But my point is that then consult with your own doctor and doctors and medical professionals that you trust. Again, taking into account your own unique medical history, your current medical condition, comorbidities, pre-existing conditions, compromised immune systems. Weight certainly is shown to be a factor in terms of the possibility or potential of COVID severity. It's a factor. Not allowed to talk about it, but it's just science. Like Rand Paul, he's a medical doctor. He said, no, I'm not getting the vaccine. I have the T-cell antibodies. He made his choice, but it came from an area where he's informed. What I'm supposed to say, tell him what to do? It's ridiculous. And then the Cleveland Clinic, wow, highly respected institution, comes out and says, yeah, if you had COVID, yeah, the T-cell antibodies are likely enough and you probably don't need any of the vaccines. Well, that's fairly new information and kind of validated what Rand Paul was saying. And no matter how many times I said, people want to say that I gave out different information, which I did not. Now, I've said, do I believe in science? I said that in January of 2020, that I believe that medical researchers in the United States and scientists and people in the doctors and those in the medical profession, that we'd probably be the country that finds the cure or the therapeutics or the vaccine or whatever it happened to be. Now, do I believe in science? Yeah, I'm trying to follow the science. I have been from the beginning. And, it was Dr. Fauci who said don't wear a mask in the interview with 60 Minutes. It wasn't me, it was a big deal. Hannity says masks are okay. This is a big step. Jimmy Kimmel even praised me. I'm like, okay, hell is frozen over. Because I want my audience safe and I want life to go back to normal. Now it's supposed to be back to normal. Now they're telling us it's not back to normal, which I'll get to in a minute. And then ultimately, I believe in freedom too. And take this information, talk to these people, and then you're going to make your own decision from an informed position based on your unique circumstances. And every doctor I talked to said that's good advice. Now, there's a lot of news out there today, and I'm beginning to wonder if Democrats and the mob, the media and big tech are doubting the advice they've been pushing on everyone because of the actions they're now taking. And I'll explain that on the other side of this break. 800-941-SEAN is our number. It's Friday. We'll get to a lot of calls, a lot to get to today. John Solomon has some breaking news. This Hunter Biden laptop, stay tuned. The walls are beginning to close in on the Biden family syndicate. You know, so many of us are trying to figure out how to increase our property value right now. Well, a big part of that is your backyard. Now, you can make your backyard your oasis all year long with a master spa, swim spa, or hot tub. Linda just placed her order for a master spa, swim spa. What made you finally decide to get it?
My mom, my dad, everybody has injuries. And one of the amazing things about this spa is that you can relax, but you can also do hydrotherapy. And it's just an awesome thing. It's beautifully made, and they have terrific customer service.
All right, don't we all deserve a little relaxation in our life? Look, I'm so impressed with Master Spas. They are the largest American-built hot tub swim spa brand. Now, don't be intimidated by something else that needs to be maintained. The Master Spa swim spas are very low maintenance. They're simple and easy to use. Master Spas, it's the only swim spa and hot tub brand you'll ever need to know. Find your local dealer now at masterspas.com. As we continue, Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN. If you want to be a part of the program, Rick Dennison is out as the Vikings coordinator. NFL has very stringent policies regarding vaccination, and after refusing a COVID-19 vaccine, wasn't the message, again, from the government, you get the vaccine and you're protected? Well, if that's the case and everybody has the option, the Vikings making a change on that one issue, according to a report at CBS Sports. That's the one issue. Oh, on a side note, I noticed that Biden's DOJ gave Gretchen Whitmer a pass on her nursing home executive order, just like in New York and Murphy and Wolf and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Now we have House Democrats literally blocking any consideration of legislation that would require the director of the NIH to declassify information and data related to the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic that focused on the role played by the Wuhan Institute of Virology that we now know had money funneled through a third-party group from your tax dollars. Can you believe that? May Republicans backed the COVID-19 Origin Act. It was passed unanimously in the Senate. And Representative Michael Burgess brought the Senate bill to the House on Tuesday. And that was the night before Democrats voted it down. Why would they vote it down? Why wouldn't we want to know the origins of this? Why wouldn't we want to know what people knew and when they knew it? We do know from Fauci's emails that, you know, one email in particular, January 31st of 2020, he was told that it looks like one of the genomes that we have seen in the coronavirus COVID-19 seems to be manipulated in a lab, pretty much. It seemed that there was some manipulation of it. That's gain of function. That was what Rand Paul was getting to this week. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And now, if they believed in the science, then why are they talking in the White House about issuing mask mandates again? Why if the vaccine's available and once you get the vaccine, life goes back to normal, they told us, then why are they saying even if you have it, you need the mask again? Do they doubt their own words?
For nearly 60 years, the General has been saving people money on their car insurance. With affordable rates and the ability to pick when you pay, the General understands that every dollar counts and wants to give you the flexibility you need in your busy life. For the coverage you deserve at prices you can afford, call 800-GENERAL, that's 800-GENERAL, or go to thegeneral.com and get your quote today.
For a great low rate and nearly 60 years of quality coverage, make the right call and go with the General.
Some restrictions apply.
Exposing the Pelosi party's chaos and corruption all day, every day. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
right, 25 to the top of the hour, 800-941-SEAN, our number if you want to be a part of the program. Anyway, so the Biden now claiming the CDC will now soon issue a new mask mandate for children. That brings Biden directly at odds with governors like DeSantis and Kristi Noem and others. That'll be interesting to watch. And FoxNews.com has out there that the White House is weighing pushing masks as COVID cases increase. The reporting goes that the Biden administration did not comment specifically, but they're reportedly now weighing whether to formally urge even vaccinated Americans to once again mask up as the country experiences an increase in the number of COVID-19 Delta variant cases. We're watching this closely. But again, their words were, if you get vaccinated, then you're okay. You don't have to worry. But there's another FoxNews.com article, universal masking calls, reach the Biden administration as they push for restrictions. It's now apparently like a fever pitch. Jen Psaki, circle back, the White House press secretary, did not deny the changing guidance yesterday in her press conference. So it raises a lot of different questions for a lot of different people. The White House trying to scold Governor Ron DeSantis for refusing a mask mandate for students. Do people forget? It's now July 23rd. We're now at the point where August is upon us. That would be a year that Florida has had and allowed in-person learning in their schools. What did we not learn from that year? What part of that, where did we see this being a bad policy? Because we know the damage done with draconian shutdowns, et cetera, et cetera. Again, if you're following the science, and I thought there was a great retort by Ron DeSantis and his team, show us the scientific justification for masking children. Atlanta's now going to do it. Chicago's going to do it. New York's going to do it. And it's like a moving target every other day. Everything keeps changing. There are people that have been fully vaccinated. We've reported this, that are still contracting the virus. It's sad to hear that. Now, we knew the efficacy was not 100%. Nobody ever said it was. And remember, this is emergency authorization. The three vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna mRNA versus Johnson & Johnson, which had a little bit of a lower efficacy clinical test result than the other two, but it's the more historical way of producing a virus. As a side note, I know people are upset on the aspect of that there could be fetal tissue issue involved in that issue. I'm just putting that off to the side. Not that I'm ignoring the issue. I just don't want to get too off track on what I want to say here. Vaccinated patients in Texas. Now, Texas officials announced that 43 of the nearly 9,000 COVID-19 deaths in the state since February were vaccinated patients. So they've had 9,000 people die since February. 43 were vaccinated. Officials report that at 99.5% of COVID-19 Texas deaths were unvaccinated patients. Again, I like to give information in your wheelhouse and urge you to research and take it seriously and talk to your own doctors, medical professionals, people that you trust. And I also believe in freedom, and I'm getting worried too more and more about medical privacy. I'm getting worried about patient-doctor confidentiality. As you know, we saw this with the Biden administration last week, signaling that they're okay with corporations and companies and schools and institutions saying, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come here. All right, that's a little troubling. Over at Fake News CNN, they have a guy named Dr. Wen. I don't know who he is. But Penny, or maybe she, I don't know the first name, saying that vaccine mandates are something that will have to come. You see what's been unfolding in France now as they have moved towards this passport and giving up, personal medical information, et cetera, et cetera. I saw the case of the Arizona Cardinals wide receiver, incredible athlete, man, talented, Andre Hopkins, JCO, you know how great a player he is.
He might be. He's arguably the best wide receiver in the sport.
Oh my gosh! Right, incredible hands. I mean, just it's you want to see a great receiver. It's just amazing. Anyway, implying he may consider retiring rather than take the vaccine. And it's amazing how people come to their own decisions. At the end of the day, I think all of these changes that now we hear every day, seemingly every day. Where's this vaccine hesitancy? Where are these issues coming from? I think it's in part people are reading and hearing and they're told one thing. Now they're told that even if they're vaccinated, we may go back to masking, et cetera. Or Joe Biden fully fully vaccinated, socially distant with his wife fully vaccinated and socially distant, still wearing masks outdoors. And people are saying, why? Is there something you're not telling us? That hesitancy is on them. And, I believe in science. I always have. It's actually, I did this special with Dr. Rodriguez that we ran over the 4th of July weekend, because I'm fascinated by it. I have so many friends that are medical doctors. 2 happen to be literally, they're brain surgeons. Actually went in an operating room once and watched a full brain surgery. And it was one of the most fascinating things I'd ever seen in my life. And then I read all about Dr. Rodriguez, who's phenomenal, just unbelievably amazing and gifted and talented. And, he did a face transplant on a volunteer firefighter who went into a burning building to save a person's life, and the floor collapsed on him and literally burned his face off to the point where fellow firemen didn't even know who it was. And after, 50, 60, I think in this case, 80 some odd surgeries, then a face transplant took place, and the great guy from Mississippi, and it just transformed his life. And he recently actually did the first successful face and double hand transplant. A young man had a terrible accident. He worked a graveyard shift. He's driving home early in the morning. It's the worst shift in the world. And fell asleep behind the wheel, and 80% of his body was burned, including his face and his hands. Literally, they had to take off, significant portions of his fingers, and he was incapable of even taking care of himself. Now with transplanted hands and a transplanted face, and the swelling will go down even more in future months. It's a whole new life. The saddest thing that I heard from the firefighter from Mississippi, just a great guy, was that little kids would be afraid to look at him. And you couldn't see it in an interview, but a tear came down his cheek as he sang it, and it just like breaking my heart. I mean, my sister once worked in a burn unit, and it was her job every day. You have to change the dressing constantly. And the pain is excruciating. You can't stop that level of pain. There's not enough medicine to stop that level of pain. And yet it's critical. And the grafting that goes on, and just incredible stuff. Anyway, so I have great faith in science and in the science of vaccinations. And I've said that. How do I know? Because since I was a kid, I got all these vaccines that I had no say about. My parents took me to the doctor. You got, the measles, this one, that one. I don't even remember. Tetanus. I have no idea. But anyway, and I'm sure whatever happens, I still have faith that they're going to be able to deal with these variants, these, which we predicted a long time ago would likely be a problem down the road. They have this Lambda variant from Peru. I would expect post Delta variant, you'll hear more about that variant and maybe other emerging variants. It's very complicated. People spend their entire lives just studying viruses. And, it is, and they do it out of love and passion and a commitment to save lives. So, God bless them in their work, and God bless you in your decision making based on your unique circumstances. And I do not apologize for saying get informed, do your research, talk to your doctors, and based on your medical history, your current medical condition, etc., read everything, and then you have to make up your own decision in a free society. And but those people that have been out there saying that Hannity has now begging his listeners, no, I'm not. I'm begging you to take it seriously because I've seen the worst of it. And it's not pretty. When you're on a ventilator and literally it's almost minute by minute things can change. And so it just complicates our life, and the amount of misinformation we've gotten has been disastrous. And if there's any hesitancy for me, my hesitancy is that I don't trust a lot of these people. They've got too much wrong. Dr. Fauci has lost my trust. He's been wrong too often. And those emails were extraordinarily revealing to me and frankly disturbing to me. A Chicago teacher fired for criticizing the group Black Lives Matter and rioting that took place. By the way, Chicago area teacher filed a civil rights lawsuit against a former school district, taught for 20 years. 82 people were shot, 19 died over that weekend when she discussed this. Fired, done. Shots were fired outside of a Washington, D.C. restaurant just blocks from the White House. This is one woman, it had happened just as we were kind of coming on the air last night on Hannity. One woman at a nearby restaurant told the station that she had heard between 10 and 15 shots, and everyone in the patio ran inside. I just went down on the floor, she said. On Friday night, a 6-year-old girl was killed when 6 people were shot. And the next night, how's this defunding working? How is this no bail working? In Houston, they had a ambulance hijacked. You can't make this up. Things get uglier and uglier. You got people in California, San Francisco, expensive stores. They're just walking in with garbage bags, filling them. As long as it's under $1,000, they walk free. And they're just walking in and walking out, and nothing happens. All the people that rioted last summer, the decision was made in spite of all the evidence. Nothing is going to happen. 2 Houston firefighters, EMTs and a hospital patient, they were unscathed after an ambulance that they were traveling in was run off the road and carjacked at gunpoint. They're transporting a patient to the hospital. Ran the ambulance off the road, took it at gunpoint. The ambulance sped off with the other firefighter and patient inside the ambulance. You can't even make this up. Welcome to Joe Biden's America. And in Comrade de Blasio's New York City, a violent quartet of criminals used fists and feet and a metal pot to pummel a disabled woman. A lot of this stuff is happening in broad daylight, too. Minneapolis Council to vote on replacing the police with Community Safety Initiative. This is the reimagining crap that they keep talking about. It's unbelievable. One former D.C. resident speaks up about the spike in the city, and it's why I left. 6-year-old girl recently killed in gunfire. Shots fired outside of where the Nationals play. Police released footage of suspects fleeing after this brazen shooting that took place there. Chicago drive-by shooting leaves 8 people injured. Third mass attack in a 6-hour period in Chicago. It's a war zone. And nobody, you don't know. Do we know the names of any of these people? Now, we research them, and I scroll them fairly frequently on TV. Don't their lives matter? They matter to me. Lives matter to me. Life matters to me. It's just, this is not complicated. Who are you going to call? The question you just got to ask yourself, if God forbid it's 12 midnight or 12 in the afternoon, I guess now, and somebody breaks into your home, and wants to harm you and your family, maybe you have young children, what are you going to do? I have a plan. I know what I'm going to do. And if your plan is to call the police, even the best response time, whatever's going to happen, probably will be over. And yet, this is the madness that we're living under. This is Biden's America. Welcome aboard.
Support for this podcast comes from CLR Clear. If stubborn shower mold has you miffed, or you're hard-pressed to get rid of hard water buildup, it's high time you kick your so-so cleaning products to the curb. It's time to fight the clean fight with the CLR Clear family of products. CLR Clear knows there's all kinds of dirty, which is why they offer products to help you take on messes all around your home. So go on and fight off that countertop crud. Square up with those carpet stains. Go crazy on your garbage disposal gunk. CLR Clear has formulas to help you get the dirty deeds done. Plus, many of their products meet the EPA's Safer Product Standard. So while tough on messes, it's still the safer choice for your family and the environment. Show dirt and grime around your home who's boss with CLR Clear and fight the clean fight. Learn more about the entire product lineup by going to clrbrands.com.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or, whether those aliens are here or not, who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about it? They go to people they respect.
Staff is being hired to do the job. We're there to seek the truth. We're there to get the truth, not to get from. TRU, truth.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
All right, hour 2, Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. John Solomon, justthenews.com. He is the editor-in-chief. He's now had 2 big breaking news stories as it relates to zero experience hunter. Now, I want to lay the groundwork for this because one is, we've learned an awful lot since the very beginning here. Remember the mob in the media, the big tech mob. I call it the Twitter blue check media, big tech cult. This is not real. This is not hunters, but this is not. All right. So we had John on last week and he said, yeah, the FBI's best signature verification, agent for nearly 3 decades says, yeah, that would be Hunter Biden's signature, on the repair sheet. John Paul Mack, the repair shop owner that handed the computers over to the FBI. And I think it was a little revealing when zero experience hunters, posse, I don't know, group, security, people, whatever you want to call them, showed up at John Paul Mack's store and said, we're here to pick up Hunter's laptops, which had already been handed over to the FBI because John Paul Mack is an honest man. And as he's trying to recover and fix the laptop of Hunter Biden, he sees things on there that he's pretty convinced are illegal. So he did the right thing. We know the FBI has it, which is a whole other question about, okay, here we go. Deep state once again. If you're Clinton, you get away with anything. If you're Biden, I guess you get away with anything. If you're Donald Trump, you get, sentenced to life in prison for jaywalking or spitting on the sidewalk. I mean, that's how bad things have gotten. And so we learned a lot. We learned that, in fact, Joe Biden lied when he said he had no discussions ever with Hunter Biden about his foreign business dealings. We learned also from the laptop that there were pictures of then Vice President Joe Biden with Hunter Biden's foreign business partners. Whoopsie daisy. You would think, wow, imagine if that was Trump, what the media mob coverage would be, big tech mob coverage would be. Imagine if people knew that, considering we had the laptop before they actually went out to vote in 2020. Oh, I'm sure it wouldn't have had any impact at all in the election, right? That's why there was, the media blackout, fake news, Russia. Even Hunter Biden said, I don't know if I was hacked, if it was Russia. Okay. Then we find out that Hunter's whining and bitching and moaning and complaining that he has to pay daddy's bills with all the money he's making off daddy's connections to Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Russia and China. Oh, amazing. Now John Solomon has, not only did he find the longtime FBI signature expert that says, yep, that's Hunter Biden's signature. Yep, I can tell. I'm a pro. Now we've got Joe Biden used a private email account as vice president to send information to Hunter, government information to Hunter Biden. And I'll give you the details of that. But before we get to John Solomon, let me first remind you, this is Biden answering the question, giving the answer on numerous occasions about knowledge of Hunter's foreign business associates.
How many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position?
No.
Knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Oh. Who said that? I know it's not true. Remember Hillary Clinton joking about the email scandal with her? Now remember, this, if any of us ever did this, we'd be in deep trouble. Listen.
The laws and regulations in effect when I was Secretary of State allowed me to use my email for work. That is undisputed. It clearly wasn't the best choice, and I take responsibility for that decision. I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Okay, in full disclosure,
BlackBerry.
And a BlackBerry. I have an iPad, a mini iPad, an iPhone, and a BlackBerry.
You were the official in charge. Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something? No. Well, no. By the way, you may have seen that I recently launched a Snapchat account. I love it. Those messages disappear all by themselves.
Not very funny. Anyway, Just the News editor-in-chief, justthenews.com editor-in-chief John Solomon is with us, also investigative reporter. Well, I would say, John Solomon, based on what I just laid out and what you have broken now in the last week and a half, and everything that we've already discovered on that laptop, that if the last name were Trump, this would be never-ending news on every network, every second, minute, hour of every day.
I agree with you, Sean. Listen, if the last name is Clinton, back in 2015, a lot of people rightly jumped in on the Clinton email story because of its significance, its national security significance, its law and order significance. And yet in this moment, as he has from the moment he entered the 2020 race, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden keep getting a pass on things that are now that clearly show they've been lying to us. They gave us a bad story during the 2020 campaign. They gave us an inaccurate story during the impeachment trial. They've given us an inaccurate story since he's been president. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, will the media wake up and do anything responsible on this story? We have a pay-to-play influence peddling scandal involving the president and his son, and it's sitting in plain open.
Okay, so now let's start with one at a time. To me, it's obviously pay-to-play. You know, the whole idea that we impeach President Trump over Ukraine, and you got Joe bragging on tape about the billion, you're not going to get it unless you fire the prosecutor who's investigating Hunter Biden. Wasn't that a real quid pro quo? We don't need hearsay, non-whistleblowers to tell us that, because it's Joe saying it, and a prosecutor that in an interview with you, in another interview, correct me if I'm wrong, with the Washington Post, in another interview with the ABC, if I'm correct, said the same thing. Yeah, I got fired because Joe Biden insisted I get fired. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sitting in plain proof, and it's never been disputed. It's never been.
And you yourself interviewed the prosecutor. His name is, if I'm wrong, correct me, Mr. Shokin, Victor Shokin.
Yep, and I also obtained emails showing that the vice president instructed and ordered the firing. Now, Joe Biden will say, I didn't do it because he was investigating my son. Okay, but you did do it while he was investigating your son. Whether you did it because or during, the fact of the matter is it was a conflict of interest to make a decision on a prosecutor who was investigating your son. It would be like Donald Trump trying to fire the U.S. attorney investigating Don Jr. If that happened, the media would be all over themselves, right? That didn't happen, obviously, but if it did, you'd have the unbelievable reaction, and here people have just stood silent or called it a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is irrefutable. And one of the most important things most people forget about, the testimony of George Kent, that guy that wore the bow tie in the impeachment trial. He didn't talk about this in impeachment, but later Ron Johnson got him on the box. And while interviewing him, he said, listen, what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden did in Ukraine undercut U.S. efforts to fight corruption. It was an appearance of a conflict of interest that harmed U.S. policy. That's from someone who worked directly with Joe Biden.
You know, I mean, this all now is becoming more clear and more clear and more clear. He lied about, well, first of all, what he did with Ukraine would be viewed as a quid pro quo. Secondly, with no experience, zero experience, Hunter clearly capitalizing off his father's name, his father leveraging taxpayer dollars in Ukraine to get the prosecutor fired to protect the family syndicate. Then we have this issue. You know, it's kind of mind-numbing to most Americans that while Joe Biden has taken away high-paying career jobs in the energy sector, and more specifically the Keystone XL pipeline, simultaneously giving a waiver to Nord Stream 2, and that would be to benefit Russia and Vladimir Putin. Talk about Putin's puppet. That would be Joe Biden. You know, one has to wonder, could that in any way be connected to the fact that his son got $3.5 million from the oligarch known as the First Lady of Moscow in that deal?
Right. Listen, that's why what Hunter Biden did in all of these business transactions is so problematic. The American people will never know and have confidence for sure that Joe Biden made decisions based on the merits instead of all the money that his son was sweeping up behind Air Force One and Air Force Two. And that efforts go on again today, right? He's out there selling art with no experience, talking about $500,000 price tags. This is a guy that made millions with no gas experience in the Ukraine gas market, made millions in China with no experience in China after going on Air Force Two to Beijing. Now he wants to make $500,000 a painting with no real expertise in art. This guy has run a shake and bake operation for 7-8 years, and every time he does it, we will never know for sure whether Joe Biden made a decision on the merits or because his son had a debt, a favor, a request to make of his father.
Quick break. More with John Solomon, editor-in-chief of JustTheNews.com. On the other side, where is Durham? All right, John Solomon with us, investigative reporter, editor-in-chief, JustTheNews.com. Great website. When we were in Singapore, I remember that I had to get a new burner phone every day. When we were in Singapore, and when we traveled, where else did we travel? Was it Vietnam? I forget where else the other one was. We were in Helsinki. When we were in Helsinki in particular, I remember I had to get a new burner phone every day that my company would give me. And my room would be swept every day. In one of the countries, they found something that was very suspicious. Let's put it that way. And in Helsinki, it was concern about Russia spying. In Singapore, it was more about China spying. They're very aware of media people that perhaps had some contact with members of the White House. That would be me. And I was warned very, very severely that I've got to be careful. We took every precaution that we were told to take. And, you know, I follow the rules, whatever I'm told to do. Right. And it's very interesting. So if they would worry about little old Sean Hannity, you have to wonder, wasn't weren't all these deals being made at the time when Hunter was still on crack cocaine and hiring hookers?
Losing a firearm. Yeah, losing a firearm near a school.
Losing a firearm or ditching it in a dumpster after he lied on the application.
It's just unreal.
So is it likely that the Russians and the Chinese, if they're doing these deals with Hunter, that they know everything about the Bidens?
That's exactly the point that Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson made in their report last year, that the possibility that the Biden family has a phenomenon they call over the barrel, meaning that they know that Russian intelligence, Chinese intelligence, God knows what other foreign intelligence knows everything that they did, and they're trying to tiptoe around it. That's the concern that the Senate raised last year. Listen, you got money, according to the Senate report, going from Hunter Biden to human trafficking and sex trafficking, known human trafficking and sex trafficking outlets. That is something that a foreign intelligence agency could use to twist someone right away. And think about the personal email thing that you mentioned at the beginning of the segment here. Joe Biden learns through official channels that a U.S. prisoner in Turkey who's wrongly imprisoned there may get released. The email that comes to him from the embassy, not classified, but it has very sensitive information, an impending release, which isn't done yet, and how the embassy found out about it. They learned about it from a lawyer. It goes from the normal secure channels in the State Department to the Vice President's office to the Vice President's iPad on a Gmail account, and then to Hunter Biden's email account. That's not the sort of information security that's going to protect national secrets or just sensitive information, just common sense sensitive information the government should protect.
All right.
That happened in 2014.
Last question, and it's one that I ask you often. Where's John Durham? Has anyone heard from John Durham? I mean, you do more follow-up than anybody. Well, what are you hearing, if you're hearing anything?
He is doing an awful lot of investigating. Lots of witnesses coming in and out, grand jury activity, witnesses being called back 2, 3, 4 times, document checks, a very thorough, long, expansive investigation into far more stuff.
Can you make any inferences from the people that were talking? Because in New York, it was every day, it was revealed to, that a grand jury had formed, who was talking to the grand jury, et cetera, et cetera. Is that happening here?
They are. Yes. This has all the hallmarks of an intense criminal investigation. Now, that
against who would you, if you had to venture a guess, we're not holding you to it?
I don't think we have to venture much. In his final comments, Attorney General Barr told us, listen, the top senior FBI officials that ran the Russia investigation are the focus of the investigation. That is consistent with what I'm seeing. There are some interesting side issues. I know of some people being interviewed in the Mueller offices. So they're looking a little bit at Mueller's conduct or people in Mueller's office. But it's predominantly focused on the FBI.
I'm not holding my breath anymore. It just is way beyond any level of patience that any reasonable person can have. But great work as always. John Solomon, if you're not reading justthenews.com, you need to. He's the editor-in-chief, and it's a great news investigative reporting website. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks,
quick break, right back.
This is urgent. It's been more than a year since George Floyd's murder. But this isn't about one event. It's about fair policing and safe communities. Business Roundtable stands with the millions of Americans across the nation calling for policing reform. We urge members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to continue working together to pass bipartisan policing legislation that can be signed into law before August recess. Paid for by Business Roundtable.
Be sure to check in as soon as you get to your car after work for breaking information you need to know about. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, 25 to the top of the hour, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Gary is in Colorado. Promised I'd go to the phones. Gary, how are you? Glad you called, sir. Happy Friday.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my call. I'd like to make 2 points. One of them being that I was fully vaccinated in January, February, and came down with COVID Tuesday night.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear it. How are your symptoms?
My symptoms were I was trying to mow my yard. I was trying to put my grass catcher back on the back of the mower, and I just couldn't do it.
You're exhausted. Very common. Are you checking your temperature? Are you checking your oxygen levels regularly?
Yes, I bought an oxygen meter, and it's staying around 91, so I'm doing good there.
Now, is that your usual base level?
94, 95, so it's down a little bit, but I'm in the Denver metro, so 95 is about as high as it'll go.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think that is a great point. I didn't even think about that. But so you think you are within your base level because to be very, very honest, 91 to me, where I live would be a little low. I know, for example, this is how they treat you in New York. You go in, you got COVID. Okay. They check your oxygen. If you're above 90, go home. If you get a temperature, take Tylenol. And if it gets real bad and your oxygen levels start dropping, then come in. The problem that I have with this, and I'm not speaking as a doctor, I'm just giving you my overall take on the handling of this is, we've had a lot of doctors on this program that, for example, we have started with the Henry Ford Hospital study on HCQ. And then we've had doctors on talking about other therapies like ivermectin. I think the most underutilized therapy is Regeneron. And what you're describing to me is what I see way too often. I don't see proactive medicine. I see reactive medicine. And that's why we've put on doctors that believe in these therapeutics. The one that seems to stand out the most in my mind as the best is Regeneron, the monoclonal, cocktails that they have. The Eli Lilly also has a version of it. I know people that have had it, and one person described it as liquid gold. I know it's been used and credited by people I know for saving their life, that things had gotten so bad in terms of their respiratory issues with COVID. I would urge you to do the following. Talk to your doctor about these therapeutics. Ask about these very things and the availability of such. Did your doctor say to do anything?
Stay hydrated, take some vitamin C, zinc.
D3, for certain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will look into
I would call him with specific questions about HCQ, and before you call him, go on the internet, find the studies that show that taken early, it does mitigate some symptoms. Find the ivermectin studies, find the Regeneron studies, and the Eli Lilly version of it, and then make an informed call to your doctor and just say, can we be a little more proactive if that's what you're comfortable doing? That's what I would do.
I would be more than comfortable with doing.
It does suck. I mean, there are people that have got fully vaccinated that, there's a percentage of people that have been showing up getting the virus.
Well, and then my wife is hacking and coughing, and she has it now too. So,
did you confirm it with a PCR or a rapid test or both?
She just feeling like crap. So we haven't tested her yet, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Linda has great websites just for informational purposes, so you can educate yourself into the early use of therapeutics that a lot of people, I don't know why, they seem so reluctant and resistant to use it, that have done well with it. But again, consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but we'll be glad to share information if you're interested in looking at it for yourself or sharing it with your doctor, okay?
Thank you.
All right, we'll put you on hold there. And listen, I'm sorry. We're praying for you. It's scary. I know it probably is frustrating to you. Hang in there but take control of your own medical future is my best advice I can give to you. And there are therapeutics that I believe are very helpful, and research shows and studies show is helpful. I'd like you to read that information. I'd advise you to read it and then talk to your doctor and other professionals that you trust, okay?
We'll do that. Thank you.
We'll put you on hold. We'll give you some direction where you can find some of that information and then do your own research, right?
Okay.
And I'm sorry you're going through this, and you're in our prayers, and I mean that. 800-941-SEAN is our number. You want to be a part of the program. Mike, Milwaukee in incredible Wisconsin. What's up, Mike? How are you, sir?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. So I'm a very moderate Democrat. I'm 32. I've been a teacher for 10 years now. And I feel like historically liberals have really always controlled the Democratic Party and the media, for that matter, and the media mob. But in the last handful of years, I just really feel like the left has moved the needle so much and furthered the rift in the country through misinformation and just shallow debates that really lack foundation. So my question for you then is, do you think that there's ever going to be a moderate Democrat that's going to come out of the mix that's not a puppet for the left? Because I feel like for a voter like myself, this pattern is just only getting worse.
You know, do you remember when Joe Lieberman, remember he was on the ticket with Al Gore in 2000 as the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party? Remember when he lost the Democratic primary in Connecticut?
I would have been 11 years old.
Okay, so touche. All right. Anyway, so Joe Lieberman, I know Joe. I know his family. His wife, Hadassah, is an amazing woman. I've been friends with them for years. I think the world of both of them. And we would agree on all foreign policy issues and disagree on social and other issues. When he lost the Democratic primary, that was the end. It was the canary in the coal mine. Now, when you fast forward to Barack Obama, I believe Barack Obama was the radical socialist that we're hearing in the Squad, etc. But he hid it better. Democrats would always hide their socialism. They never went as aggressively towards, socialism like the Green New Deal as they are doing it now. And they put on a false facade. They would appear to be conservative when they had zero conservative leanings. Now, the heart and soul of the modern Democratic Party is the new Green Deal socialism and the Squad. They're the leaders of the movement. And all the leaders in the Democratic Party follow along. And they're now articulating that which I believed for years they believed but wouldn't say publicly. So, it's basically Bernie Sanders, radicalism is the mainstream of the Democratic Party. And Mike, if you're uncomfortable with that, you're really not a Democrat anymore. You can say you're an independent, but you sound pretty conservative to me.
Yeah, I think, basically just being from Wisconsin, there was a lot with Scott Walker when I started becoming a teacher, and Act 10 went through, and between that and just the jobs report that he just didn't follow through as far as the governor went, it was my only biggest push, I guess, away from conservative policies, because I just didn't really see him as a successful governor. That's still not to say that I support our current governor Evers with everything he does, but that's why I would probably say I'm more independent than anything at the moment. But again, just everything the left does, I feel, is just so far away from what I envision.
Well, let me ask you this. If I had to guess, you probably at times were frustrated with President Trump's tweets and his combativeness. Is that a good guess on my part?
For a good part, but there was a good amount of policy I also just didn't, support.
What policies did you not support?
I think just in general, the debate towards the border wall and its priority as far as a campaign promise went, I think it just really swayed a lot of voters to divide the country.
Well, don't you think it's a pretty good idea to secure our borders? Look what's happening now. Do you think what's happening now is good?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And didn't the stay in Mexico policy and ending catch and release and building the wall stop a lot of the illegal immigration? We were at historic lows. Now we're at historic highs again.
Absolutely. I just didn't really think that a wall was really the way of going for it. And I was really hoping that they were going to just up some of the national security at the border in hopes that...
Would you agree, though, that his policy stopped the flow of illegal immigration dramatically?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that in a country's best interest to only have legal immigration, not illegal immigration?
I would agree with that.
Okay, so you support so I hate to tell you, you not
for sure.
You definitely support it. And I'm not trying, because right now, I look at this president and I look at the Squad's policies, and I am way beyond worried for the country. And for all the people that feigned that they were so outraged over tweeting and the fact that Donald Trump would say fake news and be combative with the media, I'll take that over a president that is incoherent, that supports open borders, that eliminated in 6 months our energy independence, taking away thousands of high-paying career jobs, that seems to have a foreign policy of appeasement and capitulation, lifting sanctions even for the Iranians, forcing South Korea to give mullahs in Iran $7 billion. All of those policies scare me. I don't think Putin and Xi and the Iranian mullahs fear Biden, but I think they fear Trump. And I would take that any day with the tweets over a president that I feel is a cognitive mess and that he's allowing the most radical elements to control his agenda. That's the summation of it. I'll give you the last word.
No, and I definitely agree with that as well. I think what I'm looking more for is, especially in my realm of education, and that's probably what I should have said instead of immigration. I just didn't feel like DeVos was really the way to go, and I still have a lot of.
Okay, that's fair. Do you think school choice would be a good thing or a bad thing?
I would see, and I think theoretically, it's one of the things theoretically I feel like it's a great thing, but I feel like in doing so, it's going to take away some resources from schools that really need it.
How do you feel about sex education, like the cartoons that we played on the show penises becoming rocket ships and little girls and their vulva, and we were talking about first grade and 6-year-olds. Is that appropriate to you?
Absolutely not.
You like critical race theory in school? Do you think that should be taught?
Well, I don't agree 100% with everything critical race theory says, but I think there are elements within the argument where I want every kid, despite their political background, to be able to have a voice in the classroom.
How about every kid does have a voice in the classroom? You don't need critical race theory to allow, fundamental basic fairness and the belief that all of us are created by God, right? I'm sure in your classroom you treat every child equally.
Absolutely. I think I've never, seen a school that has implemented 100% critical race theory as I've read again.
Oh, it's happening. Let me ask you this. Do you think that if we stuck to reading, writing, math, science, and computers, that kids' proficiency in reading and math would increase dramatically? Because I do.
I do. I think there's a good amount with studying the history of our country, though.
And if schools want to offer after-school sex education classes, parents can opt in. Is that a fair option for people?
That is a fair option for people.
Oh, so I'm slowly hanatizing you. You don't even realize it. You sound like a great guy, and you sound like a great teacher. Do you like that the teachers' unions take rank and file money and only donate to one political party and not the other?
It's funny you mention that because I actually just submitted my paperwork to leave my union for that very purpose.
I think I've got you figured out. You know what I think, Mike?
You got me.
I think you're more conservative, and I think your gut instincts are correct. And I would just say to you, we need more people like you in our schools. We need people to think through these issues. Honestly, this is what my program, I try to dedicate it to. News and information that you don't get elsewhere. Because if you watch the media, all you get now is they still hate Trump. They hate Trump. I hate Trump. I hate Trump. And they're ignoring and protecting Joe Biden on a lot of fronts, and it's scary. This is a scary time for the country. I wish you the best, my friend. Thank you. Quick break, right back.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
If you're a parent, you know the world is nuts and gone crazy. Schools and many in the media, they're teaching young people that socialism's just great. And for too long, parents just like you have felt helpless. But now there is a way to give your kids the education they need and you want them to have. You want to get your family the Tuttle Twins books. Tuttle Twins is a series of children's books that uses storytelling to teach conservative values. They have sold over 2 million copies already. Your kids will learn about free free market economics, the golden rule, entrepreneurship, so much more. All the important stuff that schools aren't teaching ever. Just go to TuttleTwinsHannity.com, get your set of books. You'll get a whopping 35% off discount, and you'll get a free activity workbook as well. Parents, you got to make sure your children learn your conservative values, since schools will not do it. It's up to you. Just go to TuttleTwinsHannity.com right now. You can get these amazing books. That's TuttleTwinsHannity.com. All right, News Roundup, Information Overload Hour on a Friday. Your calls coming up, final half hour of the program today, 800-941-SEAN, if you want to be a part of this program. A lot of issues to discuss involving immigration, a lot of issues to discuss involving the influence in elections of big tech and how Republicans can counter this. They're only 5 seats down in the House, which makes November of 2022 all that more important, because if Republicans get a majority, it's over. The Biden agenda, but for, of course, their use of executive orders, is pretty much, it'll be stymied, and we'll have a chance to get the country back on track in November of 2024. And of course, one of the biggest issues now that we got the latest numbers out, we are counting almost 200,000 illegal immigrants a month. Those are the ones that we know about. That doesn't include the tens of thousands that we don't know about. And the numbers are that high. It's also, every resource of ICE and every resource of Border Patrol agents, those resources are literally all involved and isolated, processing all the people that Joe and Kamala Harris and the Democrats have been begging to enter the country illegally from. They don't. So what does that mean? It just opens every other window, vulnerability on the border for the cartels and the gangs and the drugs and the human trafficking that goes on. It's an unmitigated disaster. Some Republicans are trying to get a hold of all of this and get the message out. One of the leaders is Andy Biggs of Arizona, their 5th district. And anyway, Andy's back on the program. Let's start with the border. It hasn't changed. As a matter of fact, every month it keeps getting worse based on the count they give us, which is almost 200,000 a month now.
Yeah, that's right, Sean. I mean, and every month is increasing, so that you have last month 180,000 apprehensions. Then you had another 30,000 or so known people that got away from us, and then you have probably another 60 to 70,000 people, unknown getaways, and all of those are problematic because they all bring something different to the table. We're catching and releasing of those 180,000 that we do catch. We're releasing tens of thousands into the interior, and some of them are getting in with COVID or other diseases. And of the known gotaways and unknown gotaways, they're bringing in drugs like crazy through the Tucson sector and other places along the border, and it's actually increasing. And that's because this administration refuses to even acknowledge that it's a crisis. They also are not planning to change any of their policies except for to make it easier to get into the country and provide additional incentives to sneak into the country illegally.
I mean, and you're right there at the border. I know the Attorney General is also partnered with you and others, and we see what Governor Abbott is doing down in the great state of Texas, but this is what we know. We know that Texas has finally decided and figured out a way to legally do this, and it's not been easy. People think, well, why doesn't Texas law enforcement, why don't they arrest people? Well, Texas law enforcement have received the first migrants arrested and charged with state offenses at a vacant state prison, and they transferred the first 3 migrants to this prison in Del Rio, near Del Rio, Texas. And several state organizations, including the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas Commission on Jail Standards, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, have now worked to establish alternative detention capacity to move criminal illegal migrants from other countries. And Governor Abbott, along with allocating $250 million of Texas money to continue building the wall, announced this Operation Lone Star in March. I know this was tried by Jan Brewer back a number of years ago, it was not successful in the courts. That's problematic, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, this is Arizona was the first state to try that a number of years ago when I was serving in the state legislature. And so we had problems. But now what we're seeing happening, both in Texas and in Arizona, is you've got the county attorneys enforcing state laws against these individuals. And because we can do that, it doesn't matter whether you're here legally or illegally. If you violate a state law like trespassing or vandalism or burglary or housebreaking, whatever it may be, you can enforce that law here. And so we actually have some of our county attorneys and the county sheriffs on the border that are making arrests under state law and going forward with those prosecutions. And one county sheriff told me that I think they're 100% conviction rate so far. So, but that's not enough when you have the inundation like you have 180,000 people coming across all over the border on a monthly basis. No county has enough resources to first of all apprehend and prosecute, and that, especially when this administration is circumventing that by sending these people all over the country.
Isn't that aiding and abetting? Not only are they allowing the law breaking, not only have they been picking and choosing which laws to enforce and not enforce. You're right. Then they're transporting them to the other states in the continental United States. Kamala Harris is meeting with illegal immigrants. This is your home, she said. She actually said those words. So I don't think they have any intention now of enforcing the law ever. And the question is, what is the motivation here? And if we're going to take in people from other countries, which I am a supporter of legal immigration. I have no problem with legal immigration, but I think we need health checks during a pandemic. I think we need security and background checks to make sure people don't have radical associations. And I think it's fair to the American people that if you get a coveted invitation to come here, that you've got to be able to show that you're going to be able to provide for yourself financially. That's not the case with all of these people now at a 25-year record that have entered the country illegally. The taxpayers are taking care of food and shelter and health care and education. We can't afford that.
Yeah, that's right, Sean. And look, besides the 2 million illegal aliens that will enter the country this year, we will admit 1.5 to 2 million legal immigrants to the country. So imagine that. That's 3.5 to 4 million people new into the country this year alone, and the majority, that 2 million of illegal aliens, we don't vet them. I mean, if they have a criminal record in the United States, we will vet them, we'll know, and we will remove them. But we don't know if maybe they're coming from Brazil. We don't know what their record is down in Brazil or Central America or Africa or wherever. We don't know if they've committed crimes there. We don't catch everybody.
They're not COVID testing the vast overwhelming majority, are they? They're not doing it at all.
That's right. They're not doing that either, and the other communicable diseases as well. And you know what, Sean? I was down at Rio Grande last week, and what's happening is they will release these individuals to the charitable organization who's going to transport them throughout the country, and they will do the rapid test. And if a person has a rapid test, they're putting up in area hotels that are not detention facilities. And those
by the way, the hotels that are not being watched by anybody, which means at any time of the day or night they can walk away and we'll never see or hear from them again. We have the Agriculture Secretary, Vilsack, in an exchange with Lindsey Graham. He's actually saying, I don't believe that Biden's policies have in any way affected the wave of illegal immigration. And Lindsey goes, why don't you go down to the border like I did and check it out for yourself? Listen.
You don't believe the change in policy has affected a wave of illegal immigration. You don't believe eliminating remaining in Mexico has affected a surge of people seeking asylum claims.
It's a complicated issue.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it's not
it is,
complicated
Senator.
at all.
Now, Senator, you know it's complicated.
Well,
you know it's complicated.
No, it's not. It's really simple.
Yeah, no, it's not simple.
So let me just say this, put a fine point on it. What the hell has happened in the Triangle countries in 6 months where we went from the lowest illegal crossings coming from that part of the world to the highest?
The pandemic and food shortages.
So that's what you believe. It's not changing the policy of remain in Mexico, abolishing the idea that you have to wait in Mexico, you're not released into the country. You can't figure out that when the the Biden administration canceled remain in Mexico, they'll let you come into the country and they release you into the country and you never show up for your hearing, that catch and release program. Have you ever talked to the Border Patrol about this? Have you ever had a discussion about the pull factors with the Border Patrol? Have you ever had one? Yes or no?
Yes.
When?
My first stint.
Well, when was that?
Well, I don't remember the year, sir.
Okay, has it been in the last 10 years?
It may have been.
Has it been last year?
No.
Okay. Go talk to them and you'll find out how wrong you are if you talk to them.
Well,
I mean, that checkmate, game over, and I can't believe this guy has such a high position in government. It frightens me.
Yeah, I can't believe it. He can't even remember if it was in the last 10 years. And if you go down to the Border Patrol, virtually every agent's going to tell you, including those that are very supportive of President Biden, they're going to tell you that the Remain in Mexico policy needs to come back. They're going to tell you that you can't take away Title 42 authority, which is what this administration has promised to do. You got to reinstate the Northern Triangle of State asylum agreements that we had. All of those things, and build defense, all of those things would slow this thing down and stop the pull factors, and we could gain operational control of the border. This happened on January 21st is when Biden rescinded these Trump policies, and within a few days you started seeing a surge at the border that has grown a record number every month, February through June of this year.
Well, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, this is what they're now inflicting and doing to the country, and this can't happen. But it is happening, and the only way it's going to stop is if America actually follows the laws that it passes. You're a lawmaker. Joe Biden's, swore to uphold our Constitution. Our laws are based on our Constitution. That is the foundational aspect for every law that is out there. Quick break, more with Congressman Andy Biggs as we talk about a whole host of issues. 800-941-SEAN, your calls, final half hour of the program today.
We are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team. Given, as Dr. Murthy conveyed, this is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
As we continue, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs is with us. Let me get to the other issue here, and that would be the battle that you're engaging in the letter to the Biden administration condemning government censorship. Explain exactly what that means.
Well, what we're doing is, the government censorship is basically the same thing if you have an agent or the government itself. So what's happened is, if Jen Psaki is representing the administration, they tell us that they are working with the Facebook and other social media sites to censor basically any kind of opposition language. Those agents, which is big tech now, they are acting for the state. That's censorship. That's Article 1, that's First Amendment violations, and it needs to stop, and they need to answer questions. So we have submitted a bunch of questions to this administration seeking we want answers. We want answers. What makes them think they have authority? And also, do they have databases? How's this surveillance going? And it's just another aspect of control in the surveillance state. And this administration has no regard to your constitutional rights or mine. And that's what we're trying to get at.
Yeah, well, you've been all over it, and you've done a great job. The question is, how do you see 2022 lining up? Because if you look at the Democrats and their strategies, there's an article actually in the Politico that says Democrats are counting on Joe Biden's popularity to save them from a midterm massacre. And I'm like, what popularity?
Well, So he's got a 50% approval rating, but nobody else in the Democratic Party is anywhere near that. And so I don't believe, though, that we can sit by and say, look how bad the Democrats are, and hope that we have the trust of the American people. I think we as Republicans have to have a very positive, forward-thinking agenda, America First agenda. The Trump policies that he put in place, whether it's border security, whether it's energy policy, you name it, the jobs economy, they were very popular with the American people. That's where we have to go forward, address those issues in response. We can't just go and say, they're really bad, we're not as bad as them. We have to go through and say, not only are they really bad, but what we have is the way that you want to work, live, learn, play, and those rights will be protected so you can fulfill the measure of your creation and really enjoy the American dream. That's where we have to get back there and be just as strong going forward on the positive side as we know that the Democrats are with the negative side.
All right, Andy Biggs, head of the Freedom Caucus, Arizona District 5. Thanks for fighting a good fight. Frankly, without the Freedom Caucus, Republicans would not have the backbone that they have on any issue, and you guys play a very vital and key and important role. Thank you for what you're doing. 800-941-SEAN is our number on this Friday. We'll get to your calls, final half hour of the show today. Quick break, right back. All right, 25 now to the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Final half hour here on a Friday. You know, just when you think like things are going to slow down, news never slows down anymore. I noticed that Louis Farrakhan finally got, suspended from Twitter. Did you notice that? Not Louis Farrakhan himself. It was actually the Nation of Islam account. And it was because of, quote, COVID misinformation. What about all the horrific views that this man has? But Donald Trump can't use any of these platforms.
Well, I think that's putting it kindly. I wouldn't say,
kindly?
Saying that you want to kill an entire...
Again. I didn't hear you. Say kindly.
Kindly. Kindly. How do you say it? Kindly. Yeah, I'm saying it like that.
No,
anyways.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Kindly. Now you're going to make me feel self-conscious. Anyways, but, the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan are putting out tweets and commentary. It's not like, oh, we don't like the color of the sky today. It's, we hope an entire nation of people is wiped off the face of the earth. That to me is aggressive. That's a little bit different. But for some reason, COVID takes precedence over, an entire state of people. I'm like, why are they not both important? It's just insanity.
It's obvious with where they're going. I don't think they, meaning the government, you want to talk about vaccine hesitancy. You look at all the news that we had been talking about earlier in the program today. I don't even think they believe their own science. I don't think they believe what they were telling everybody to do. Otherwise, like, for example, this Vikings coordinator fired. He's out as the coordinator after refusing the vaccine. But I thought it wouldn't matter because everyone else had the option to get the vaccine. And if you got the vaccine, you didn't have to worry. Okay. More trust. By the way, Fauci's trust is totally gone. Then you've got Joe Biden and the White House now, saying that they're going to issue a mask mandate for children and maybe others as well. Other states are now bringing back the mandate. White House is weighing, pushing masks again because of the Delta variant. And behind the Delta variant, you'll hear more about the Lambda variant and whatever other new variant comes into play. Universal masking, calls now. I thought if people listen to the great Dr. Joe and the great doctors on television and, that are telling people what to do, that we wouldn't have to go back to those days. But apparently they're not confident in their own science. Now, we have pointed out, rightly so, that there are cases of fully vaccinated people still contracting COVID. Well, we knew some of that would happen with the efficacy numbers that we were giving from the beginning. And it was 94, 5, 6% for Pfizer, Moderna, and a lower number for the Johnson & Johnson single shot, more traditional way of getting a vaccine. Remember this woman was such an amazing singer, the Tampa Bay Lightning national anthem singer. Apparently she's had MS for years. I didn't know that. beautiful voice, amazing. And she, like the Islanders, let the crowd take over the singing of the national anthem in the Stanley Cup Finals. It was very, very cool. But anyway, she had gotten the vaccine, and she sadly has been hospitalized. We can pray for her. The White House is trying to lecture Ron DeSantis because, since August, remember last year, his schools have been open. Most states kept their kids out of school the whole year, and DeSantis is hitting back saying, show me the science. They keep lecturing about the science. Atlanta, Chicago, they're going to require masks when school reopens. Now there's a push to get even children vaccinated. Now there was vaccinated patients in Texas account for only 43 of nearly 9,000 deaths since February, according to Texas health officials there. 9,000 deaths since February. 43 of the people that died, in fact, had been vaccinated. And then the argument would be, well, it increases, or as Governor DeSantis said, coronavirus vaccines reduce the mortality and are saving lives that way. You got over at Fake News CNN, their medical experts saying vaccine mandates are something that will have to come. Certainly seems like that's where they're heading towards. You have a star NFL player is even considering retiring over the vaccine issue. This was a little bit surprising. DeAndre Hopkins, Arizona Cardinals, he's a superstar, amazing wide receiver, implying that he would consider retiring rather than go along with the mandate from the NFL. And looks like Whitmer got a pass by Joe's DOJ as it relates to the nursing home deaths, because she had, like Cuomo and like Wolf and like Murphy, they had this nursing home executive order that they were following. All right, on this Friday, let's get to our phones here. Let's say hi to Lori's in Pennsylvania. Hey, Lori, how are you? And we're glad you called. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for checking in.
I just wanted to let you know that the Cuba deal, for a long time, the Cuban people were trying to protest to try to get their freedom, and the the Biden administration didn't want to do anything for them until you brought it up and until you fought for them and you went down to Florida and had your town hall and everything. And I think that if it wasn't for you, that they would have still ignored it.
I don't think I deserve the credit. Here's who I give all the credit to. Well, I give the credit to a lot of people, but the top of the list has to be all of the passionate people in Miami, what they call Little Havana, and the Cuban American community, because they have been tirelessly out there calling attention to what's going on, and people in, that they love, their friends, their neighbors, their relatives, people they know are literally risking their lives for the cause of freedom, and they are offering support and solidarity and trying to get the message out. And I've been watching, but I've also watched, there's been some media coverage, but very limited. And I just thought it was fundamentally unfair. And I heard their voices. Anyway, we make calls to Governor DeSantis and Marco Rubio and Congresswoman Salazar and the mayor of Miami. I mean, everybody, immediately it was a yes. When is it? We want to help. So I give all of them credit. And I just felt like, like a typical, we don't follow the crowd in the media. We forge our independent path. And we do what they won't. They wouldn't vet Obama. We did. They lied about Russia and Trump collusion. We got to the truth. That's what we try and do every single day. And believe me, the mob, the media, they're not exactly fans of me or this show. And I'm fine with that. I'm very comfortable with that, as a matter of fact. But I appreciate your kind words. But I believe in many ways you hire me to do this radio show every day. You give me this honor. I'm hired to do the TV show. I do the show for you, this incredible audience that I have, because you give me this opportunity, and I owe it to you to give all that I've got, and I try every day to do that, and put on the best show possible with news and information that I know the mob and the media and big tech will censor and never put out there. And again, I get hit from the left and the right and the center and everywhere in between, and I really don't care, because I'm doing this show for this audience. And we do have an information crisis, and we are apparently very alternative media, because most media is corrupt, and they just protect Joe Biden. They won't even cover or play Joe Biden's, mental screw ups and his cognitive mess that he's in. Sad. It's tough, but you're very kind, Lori.
Thank you very much, Sean, and you have a good day.
You have a great weekend, all right? Blake in California. Blake, how are you? Glad you called.
I'm doing so well. Thank you for taking my call. I want to make the most of my time. I want to talk about two things, your town hall in California. To your town hall, it was such a breath of fresh air, the authenticism that you guys got out, and the way that you interacted with the crowd, and then the way with those government representatives interacting with the crowd was just so awesome. I'm the son of an immigrant. Father immigrated here from Portugal. And I believe anybody who is a son, daughter, granddaughter of any kind of immigrant, we all came here for a reason. We didn't come here because everything was so wonderful in the country that we came from. We came here for opportunity, whether it was soft socialism in Europe or full-on communism in Vietnam, Korea. Anywhere you have come from, Hmongs, you need to stand in solidarity with the Cuban people, with the Venezuelan people, and anybody who is going through oppression. To try and correlate this with California, here in California, it's soft socialism. The citizenry here, we always push back against it, but our executive branch here in California forces it upon us. I actually live in Devin Nunes' district, and it's not far from Kevin McCarthy's. I would love to see you put the nail in this vampire Gavin Newsom's coffin. Push this at him.
Blake, can I just tell you, I don't think I can do it. Unfortunately, the people that, if the population of California is not migrated out of the state, the numbers that they have, that would be a big part of the base that would absolutely be voting to recall Gavin Newsom. But they were so passionate about how bad things are, they decided to get the hell out. The same thing as in New York. Andrew Giuliani is a great guy. I think he'd do a good job as governor. Also Congressman Zeldin. I think he'd be a good governor. I think they do great jobs. I think Curtis Sliwa would be a great mayor for New York. He would get law and order and safety and security back in the city of New York. The odds are very low in each case. I admire them for doing it. I really do, and I want to help them. Getting to question 2 and on the recall is going to be very hard for you guys out there.
No, and how you were saying the media blackouts in certain areas, and that's one thing Fox News, the Patriot. I'm all over the Patriot channel, but bringing light, because I really think that you're having Democrats coming to the table now and realizing what's happening here. Our drug problem is so rampant in California. And also, too, Sean, if you can't change California, you can also show urban areas in Texas, Arizona, Florida, that this is what the Democrats of the United States of America have in store for all of America, because that's really what they want. What's happening here, they want to bring it to every neighborhood across the United States. And even if you can't change California, you can show the rest of the United States what they have in store for them, because
I have absolutely echoed that exact same message that you just delivered. And it's sad, and I don't see this ending well for the country or for the socialist utopia of California or New York or any of these other places. And it's just sad. Now we're in an ideological battle where I don't see any middle ground. You don't reconcile secure borders and open borders amnesty. You don't reconcile no energy development versus energy independence. You don't reconcile any of these tough issues. It's kind of scary where we are right now. Anyway, I appreciate you being with us. I really do. And I'm the recall's coming. Let's see what happens. It's an uphill battle in my view, but with God, I guess all things are possible, right? 800-941-SEAN is our number if you want to be a part of the program. All right, that's going to wrap things up for today. But you know what? The news never stops. Now, we got a big week. Next week, we're going to watch the radical New Green Deal Democratic Socialists as they attempt now to bypass the normal legislative action of actually passing a bill, and they'll use reconciliation. We will be standing up for you and giving you news you'll never get from the media mob. Anyway, that's all happening on Monday. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Thank you for being with us, and have a good weekend. You can improve your overall health and boost your immune system by consuming enough fruits and veggies every day. Balance of Nature, they make it easy with their fruits and veggies in a capsule, providing a variety of 31 whole ripened fruits and veggies. And Balance of Nature is now offering you 35% off your first preferred order plus free shipping. Promo code Hannity. Go to balanceofnature.com right now. Promo code Hannity. 35% off your first preferred order, and shipping is absolutely free.